Damian Hines.
My advice is to steer clear of PewDiePie. But my question follows on from Steve's question and your answers, Richard. So, I mean, clearly younger people are consuming media very differently. This isn't just about 10-year-olds. This is about people in their 20s and 30s. And the difference is not just that they are, on iPlayer or even on ITV. They're nowhere near a PSB-owned channel in many cases. Do you think that is something to worry about for the BBC and for you in your new role, and what should be done about it?
Yes, it is. It is. But the context is important. So if you look at declining engagement for the BBC with young audience, and if you look at that in isolation, you'd be concerned. But if you look at it in the context of the amount of available competitive content, then the BBC is still very important. Plus, young people get older and their interests will change. And certain things that the BBC delivers in terms of its news and its analysis will become probably more important to them as they become older. So I think that I am concerned about that. And certainly when I looked on TikTok and put in BBC, I was surprised to find that it's hard to find, for example, on TikTok. What I would say, though, is that the BBC is delivering outstanding content to very young children. As I said, I watch Yaki D with my 1-year-old. And in the same way, if you look at its educational content, which is delivering during this terrible pandemic, it's certainly communicating itself. The concern that I have is that people should know BBC content when they receive it, if they receive it on different platforms, so they can understand that it's actually coming from the BBC.
So strategically, though, there are choices that need to be made, aren't there, between curation and creation and channels and onward distribution. And it's in our inquiry we've been doing on the future of public service broadcasting or public service media, we've a few times considered this question: does the BBC ultimately become something which focuses on owning distribution channels and curating quality content from elsewhere, giving it, your own good housekeeping stamp and showing it to the world? Or does it focus on creating quality content and trying to maximize exposure of that content, that programming through other people's channels to reach the largest number of people in the places where they are already watching or listening?
Well, look, I think, I don't know if you know Wayne Gretzky, but Wayne Gretzky said the difference between being good, when asked what the difference between a great ice hockey player and a good hockey player was, he said, I skate to where the puck is going. So one of the things you have to ask yourself is, where's technology going? And one of the ways it's clearly going is personalization around the data that's captured with respect to people's interests. So it's not just, in that sense, creation and curation, it's also going to be personalization. And coming back to this question of localism, that will also be a feature of localism insofar as one's interests will be catered for you systematically through the software that identifies and extracts the content that's appropriate for you. So I think that actually there are going to be choices, but it's really, that's why digital is central to the strategy. And it's not just central to the strategy, but it's how well it's executed. And we shouldn't forget Project Kangaroo. We shouldn't forget that when Netflix was a $3 billion company, that the BBC and the ITV wanted to produce a streaming service and were prevented by the regulator from doing so because there was a concern that they would suppress competition. Netflix is now, a $250 billion global organization that's challenging the BBC. So it doesn't mean the BBC will have executed it nearly as well as Netflix did. But the fact is the technology within the BBC is central, and the success of that technology is going to be central to the success of it creating value and delivering value so that the content and the curation works.
So individual data and tailoring may be, in one sense, undeniably a consumer good because it is literally serving up what people want. But isn't it also the opposite of broadcasting, effectively, and what traditionally the BBC has always done? And I wonder if you worry, as I do, about the future of news and current affairs and factual programming, let alone minority languages, different types of sport, children's programming, and so on. How are we going to make sure in future that that kind of quality program does get in front of people, even if they don't initially know that it's what they want?
Well, take a look. I mean, in some ways, TikTok is an interesting linear video delivery system that does bring serendipity also into what it delivers and then learns from that. So, so the broadcasting algorithms can inject and probably would inject certain amounts of serendipity in order to excite people's new interests and stimulate them so that the content that is delivered isn't repetitive and boring. How it does that, I don't know, but it's entirely possible that serendipity, and it could even be a better part.
I mean, I'm sorry to cut across you, but do you think, I'm just conscious of time, in the future, is the serendipity will be the BBC's job? Because that is the future version of broadcasting. It's how you mix in content with an explicit public value in with entertainment content, effectively, that people have chosen.
I think it's entirely possible. And that's one component, but there's also going to be great value in curation, as you identified as well, because we've all sat in front of Netflix and spent 20 minutes trying to find something to watch, and which is the old-fashioned equivalent of when we went into a DVD store and spent half an hour because there was so much there and we couldn't decide. So curation has its value as well in terms of efficiency.
Just finally from me, in terms of securing visibility, securing prominence for PSB channels, are there perhaps just too many of them vying for that prominence? And if so, is the answer to have fewer of them through consolidation or deeper collaboration between them?
Well, certainly the discussions taking place across the media spectrum is that we're at an early stage in, for example, the streaming wars, and that in this battle, the battle for wallet and for time, consolidation is inevitable. So let's say Apple buys Netflix.
I was thinking more of at your end of the shop, so at the PSB end.
Well, but you have to look at it globally, because it's global offerings being delivered into the homes and the devices in this country. So you have to look at what the global provision is. And then you have to say, where do the UK PSBs fit in that? We've already seen one dimension of consolidation, which is the collective participation on BritBox. How and in what shape the UK is going to be successful in that is hard to see with great clarity right now, but it's important that we are successful.
Thank you, Mr. Trump. Thank you.